Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me at the back? I can't see anyone at the back. Hello. Hello. Thank you for joining me after lunch. I always worry that after lunch the room's going to get smaller, but it looks like most of you have made it back. What was it that Andre said he could deliver his presentation in Portuguese, Spanish? So with me, you've got three options: English, English, or English. So I apologise for that, but if there are any questions, all of my Dutch colleagues, I'm sure, can speak to you afterwards anyway. But we'll try my very best to work our way through these next 30, 40 minutes or so. I want to talk to you about managing users, and in particular, I'd like to talk to you about end-user computing. How many people in the room have a responsibility in one way or another for managing users and end-user computing? Okay, good. The majority of you. That's very good to see. Ultimately, a lot of what we do within information technology is around delivering applications, data, business information to users. And that end-user computing world has evolved over time, and it's evolving at a phenomenal rate, and it's evolving quite considerably. So what I want to talk to you about is, in particular, when it comes to the digital transformation, how does that affect end-user computing and what we deliver to our users? And I'm going to start by talking to you about something I call the perfect storm. Has anyone seen that film, by the way? Anyone remember that film, The Perfect Storm? Terrible film, I think, if it was, wasn't it? Terrible film. I think it was probably one of the first DVDs I ever bought. Is anyone in the room too young to know what a DVD is? We joke, it's going to happen, right? It's going to happen. But there's this perfect storm, and whether it's a perfect storm or whether it's actually a nightmare of a storm, but there is a storm happening at the moment. And the three things that I particularly want to talk to you today about, very simply, is technology, users, and security. And I think back through all of the presentations that we've seen today, we talk about how technology is evolving and the options that are available to us, and whether we should move to the cloud or whether we should stay on premise, for instance. We listened to those presentations that spoke about the user and about how the user has now got more choice. And we think about the BMW example and the Tesla example, for instance. And then a number of the presentations have touched on security as well. And security for me is extremely interesting, because for a long time, security has been the worry of the CISO. It's been the worry of the guy that looks after security. But actually, in the end-user computing world, security is now something I believe that we, as workspace people, need to start to worry about, okay? Security is becoming slightly more operational, and needs to become more operational than perhaps it ever was before. So let's dive into those three areas very quickly, and some of this has already been said today, so I apologize. I think we're going over some old ground. But if I look at it, in my opinion, technology is evolving. There is no revolution at the moment from a technology point of view. A revolution to me means that I leave one thing behind and I go to something else. How many people in the room have still got Windows XP in their environment? A few. How many people have got Windows 7? How many people have got Windows 10? Okay. How many of those Windows 10 people have deployed completely, 100% everywhere Windows 10? No one. Okay. Very, very quick survey. Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows 10, it is a hybrid of an environment. We have got a mix of operating systems within our environment. Okay. Windows 10 and the anniversary release that's just about to come out is just about to make our lives even more difficult, because we've got yet another release of Windows which is ever so slightly different from the Windows 10 we've had before. Microsoft are looking at changing the cadence of their updates. So just in a Windows Microsoft desktop world, we've got a variety of different platforms. We have a very heterogeneous environment. How many people have got Macs within their organization? How many people have got VDI? Terminal services. So you can start to see this is a very interactive session. I need you as much as you need me. It is a complete mix. Yeah? When we look at the cloud, we've already said time and time again, we are not going to move 100% of everything to the cloud. Yeah? We're going to have a mix of both on-prem and off-prem. We're going to have a mix of software as a service. We might have some desktop as a service. We might have some infrastructure of a service. How many people have gone to Office 365? Loads of people. Yeah, it's happening. That doesn't mean to say I'm going to move everything to the cloud, for instance. It means I've got a hybrid. It frustrates me a little bit, in fact, when people talk about the hybrid cloud. The cloud isn't hybrid. It's the workstation and the environment that is a hybrid. Yeah? There are some things delivered from the cloud, data, applications, desktops, services, and there are some things which we're going to have to continue to deliver locally. If I look higher up the stack than just the device or the operating system, and I look at applications, people use SCCM, people use application virtualization, people use application layering, people have some applications that are delivered via SaaS, for instance. The way we deliver applications is also a hybrid and is also varied. And then on top of that, we've got a number of different ways in which we can deliver data, both business data and unstructured data. If I take a look at a user's unstructured data, I've got map drives, I've got offline files, I've got files sat locally on my Mac that my business doesn't even know about. Yep. There are a number of different technologies out there, and not one of those technologies is revolutionary enough to replace everything that we've already got. At AppSense, we call it the and problem. There is always a technology and something else. I'm yet to find an organization that went 100% VDI or 100% desktop. There is always an and. And please come and find me if you are one of those organizations, because I really would like to find you. Microsoft themselves typically care, and is there anyone from Microsoft in the room? Can I say this? Microsoft are typically talking about three things at the moment. They want you to go to Windows 10, they want you to go to Azure, and they want you to go to Office 365. That alone is a hybrid environment. Yeah? They still want you to have the desktop, yeah, but they still want you to then take services from the cloud, for instance. If I put mobile into that as well, we've now got mobile technologies, and the world's gone mobile mad. We've got new devices from people like Microsoft, and we've got other players that have already been mentioned coming into the space. Does all of that make sense? Please give me some nods. Yes. It's after lunch. I need people to stay alert. Now, unlike technology, I believe the user is going through a revolution, okay? And there could be a number of reasons for this, and some of your organizations may play well into this, and some of you may turn around and say, my users aren't like that. But the way in which users touch IT, and particularly need to touch end-user computing, has changed dramatically. That's not just evolved, that has dramatically changed. Somebody mentioned the millennials earlier, the Generation Ys, for instance. We spoke about, the millennials not knowing what a DVD is, for instance. My daughter thinks that a CD is a Frisbee. She doesn't realize that it plays music. But we've got a completely new generation of people coming in. And even at the other end of the scale, we've now got the older generations more affay with consumable devices, consumable applications, consumable data. Users are becoming far more capable than they were, or self-capable than they've ever been. If we want an application on our phone, what do? We go off to the IT store, we download it. If I don't want it tomorrow, I delete it. That doesn't happen in the Windows world that we've all worked in for the last 15 years. It has to be packaged up and managed and deployed, for instance. Users are familiar with things like IT stores, yeah? But they're not necessarily familiar with IT catalogs or IT stores within the enterprise. Users are more happy to be self-serviceable now as well. If they've got a problem, they need it fixed now. They don't want to wait 2 days for their PC to be fixed or for an engineer to come out. In fact, they would rather try and fix it themselves. How many of you are in charge of a support desk and the users now call up and they don't just give you the problem? What they do is they give you the problem and then tell you the 5 different things they've done to try and fix it. And IT support spend half an hour trying to work out what have you done before to get back to the original problem. Yeah? So they're far more au fait with self-service. Their expectations are higher as well. The iPad has a lot to answer for. Yeah? My iPad sits in my lounge or my living room underneath the sofa. And when I'm watching television and I need to Google something, it comes out, I switch it on, it's on instantly, and I can get access to Google or applications or data. Users expect that. They don't expect to come in and have to wait 45 minutes to log on or 1 minute 45 to log on. They don't expect applications to crash. When we do a migration from Windows 7 to Windows 10, they don't expect all of their documents to suddenly disappear. They don't expect to have to reconfigure their Outlook settings, for instance. Yeah? Who's got an iPhone in the room? Lots of people. Okay, I won't ask to take anyone's iPhone, but if I take an iPhone now, and I drop it on the floor, and I stamp on it, yeah? I won't do that, it's expensive. But I'm very confident in my own mind, cost aside, I'm very confident that my broken or my lost iPhone is no relevance to me, plays no relevance to me. Why? Because I can go into the Apple store, I can buy a vanilla build of a new iPhone, a brand new iPhone, yeah, industrialized, to use a terminology from earlier today, an industrialized version of a phone. And the first thing I do is what when I sign into it? Anyone? Huh? Backup from iCloud. What does iCloud give me? It gives me my data back, it gives me my music back, it gives me my applications back, it gives me my personalized look and feel, it gives me my wallpapers back. Yeah? We don't have that necessarily in the Windows world. And when we're delivering new technologies, whether it be new desktops, desktop virtualization, cloud-based services, cloud-based applications, whatever it might be, we need to start to care about that. And we need to start to care about that because the user's expectation is significantly higher than before. User experience matters. And I think that's a subtle change from where we were 5, 10 years ago. So in addition to all that technology and the users, we've now got security. We've all spent an incredible amount of money on securing our networks, securing our data centers, securing our buildings. How many people in the room have invested in an MDM or an MAM mobile management type of technology? Who utilizes those, right? Did you know that 0.03% of all malware attacks occur on a mobile device? 0.03, yeah? When I log on to this device, I'm not logging on as a root. I'm logging on as a user. That's safer. When I download an application, I download it from the App Store. That app is self-contained. It can't touch any of the other applications. It's been verified by Apple, for instance, to make sure that it works properly and it doesn't break the operating system. Yeah? But we still worry about the data and the applications on that we go and put additional software like MDM, MAM, EMM solutions on our phone. Let's pick up this device. Who do I run as on this device? Typically, an administrator. Yeah? How many people have got local admins in their environment? Who wants to admit it? Who wants to admit that they've got users that are local admins on their PCs? There's a lot out there, trust me, a lot. Yeah? There's no whitelisting implemented on this device either. There's no app store that says only certain devices can run. As a user, I can go and download or put a USB key in and I can do whatever I like. And since the days of XP, what have I done to try and manage it? I've typically put antivirus on it and applied some group policies. I've typically not done a lot else. 0.03% of those malware attacks are on phones and considerably less on iOS. This thing is under attack, big time. Yeah. Our users are significantly more mobile than they've ever been before. They work from home, they work on the train, for instance. The attacks that are coming through via email, via spear phishing, via drive-by websites, whatever it might be, there are more of those attacks in the last 2 quarters than there have been combined in the last 2 years. Yeah. There are also quite a lot of exploits, known exploits and vulnerabilities on this, not just at the operating system level, but third-party applications. Adobe Flash is extremely well known for it. Adobe Flash have had 3 vulnerabilities in the last 3 months, for instance, that needed to be patched. People are exploiting these vulnerabilities, and they're not doing it for fun anymore. They're doing it for money. Does anyone remember back in 1999 there was a virus called the Melissa virus? Does anyone remember that one? The Melissa virus was very simple. I'd send an email to my friend Aidan here, and it would have a Word attachment in it. And he'd double-click on that Word attachment, and it would go into his Outlook contacts, find the first 50 people, and email all of them with the same virus. Very quickly, that Melissa virus impacted 20% of all enterprise desktops. It caused Microsoft to take Hotmail down for a number of days. David Thomas, I think his name was, or David L. Cook, something like that. He was fined and put in prison. But why did he do it? He just wanted to become famous. The way and the method, technically, how an attack can enter your environment now is exactly the same. The CryptoLocker virus, for instance, that's been around recently, came in exactly the same way, came in as an attachment. But the method used around social engineering is significantly more targeted. I'm just having a very quick look at Rob's name badge here, right? I've now got Rob's details. Later on this evening, I can take Rob's details, I can find his email address, and I can say, thanks very much for coming to my presentation. Please click on this link and you'll find my PowerPoint. Infected. And it's being done for financial gain more than anything else. And that user, unfortunately, to use you as an example, is the weakest link in the organization. So this perfect storm is really about how do I manage all of this technology and all of these different platforms, all of these different ways of deploying applications and data. How do I continue to deliver a great user experience but secure it at the same time? And the thing was, it used to be very, very easy because there was a one-to-one relationship between me and my PC, or our users and our PC. If we had 1,000 users, we would build 1,000 laptops. Please don't take pictures of the graphics, they're terrible. I'm joking, by the way. Help yourself. These are Simon Townsend created graphics, and hence, it's about as good as the first page of Google can get. But there's a one-to-one relationship between our users and their devices. If I wanted to manage that Windows XP machine, I would deploy some tools to manage that device, and I would then give it to the user, and in 4 years' time, they'd come back and say, can I have a new one? We typically managed it as one monolithical entity as well. We made sure they had access to the applications, we installed the apps, we packaged them up, we applied some policies, we put antivirus on it, we created the gold build, and we gave it to the user. The problem now is that we have this myriad of different devices. And not just a myriad of different devices, but each one of those layers within those devices is a hybrid as well. I might have the majority of my people on Windows 10 or on a virtual desktop, but the way I deploy the applications into that environment are different. There's a lot of customers out there now that have got Windows 10 laptops or Windows 7 laptops that then access a VDI image to get another corporate desktop, that then access a Citrix XenApp environment to get applications published through to that virtualized desktop. And then I've got to deal with the other layers, the data and also the user. Wow, 5 minutes, I've been talking far too long. So the challenge that we've had for a long time is that all of these technologies have been divided up into different groups. They've been managed by different people, and we've used different tools to do it. And that becomes not just cost ineffective, but it also affects user experience. My VDI guys look after VDI and use a set of tools. My desktop people use a different set of tools and are run by a different team. And that is what makes end-user computing so complex. Now, if you take our approach, and what we believe is that users aren't machines. And someone said it earlier. There are less users than there now are devices. Less users than there are platforms or technologies, for instance. So at AppSense, our vision and our belief is that we should be managing users instead of managing platforms and devices. Yep. To quote a term again from this morning, industrialize the lower elements of that desktop. Can I get to a point where I've got a single gold image that is then dealt with and managed at a user level instead of managing the operating system? Can I package my applications once and manage how those applications perform at a user level differently? Really simply, what we do is we have something called user environment management. Now, user environment management may be well known to some of you, and it may be well known in a virtualized environment, a Citrix environment, a VDI environment. But user environment management is something that AppSense believe we should consider across the entire estate, regardless of whether it is a cloud-based delivered desktop or, for instance, a Microsoft Surface device. We take a number of elements that are relevant to the user, their profiles, their wallpaper, their signatures, their Outlook settings, their policies, for instance, how their applications are configured, the fact that the application is configured differently for this guy to this guy, their security settings, their whitelisting, their admin privileges, their data. And this is the clever bit of the graphic, watch and learn. It decouples or unlocks, now it's not going to work, there we go, the user away from the underlying operating system, away from the applications, so that we can manage that user independently. Now, our marketing folks call that the user's DNA. I would link it back to iCloud, right, on an iPhone, for instance. Yeah? Imagine if you can just log onto a PC, completely clean, and that PC is then personalized back again. Your data is where you left it. Your personalization is back. Your settings are back. We can also wrap a whole host of context around that user DNA of when to apply it and when not to apply it. Because guess what? The user's significantly more mobile than before as well. Once we've got that DNA held centrally, it is then very, very easy to then apply that DNA across multiple environments. And this is one of the reasons why AppSense is used to help people in Windows migrations. It's helped in desktop transformation projects. It's helped in non-persistent VDI environments or Citrix environments. But it can also help you move some of that to the cloud. Yeah? I can take personalized settings and policies and apply them across all of those different platforms under a number of different contextual rules. So when I work from home, my environment can be tailored differently to when I'm working in the office. When I'm in Holland, my environment can look and my policies might be different to when I am based in the office. And I can apply that to data, personalization settings, application settings, whatever it might be. So, some things very quickly to consider, and I'm going to fly through some slides. First of all, how do we start to measure that user experience? And how do we start to measure and have visibility of what our users are doing? What are their logon times? What are they running? What admin privileges do they have? Everything that I've discussed, how can we have that visibility? There are a number of tools out there, yeah, that will help you have visibility of your existing estate. Secondly, think about how you can do migration simpler. Is there a better way of getting data off that device and holding it centrally and synchronizing it down to the new devices so that migrations go simpler? Is there a way, for instance, of dealing with the problem that Microsoft introduces when it comes to profile management? Some people might be aware of this, but every version of Windows that comes out, you get a new version of a profile, which means my personalized settings don't carry very well from Windows XP to Windows 7. And when the new version of Windows 10 comes out, they've just released a version 6 profile. Nightmare. Think about how you can better manage those users across that environment. Can you enable, for instance, users to do more self-service, for instance? what happens about data. One user may have data stored on their D drive, one in My Documents, one in Dropbox, etc., etc. Is there a way in which we can actually collect that data, essentially back it up and make it available across multiple platforms? And then how do you start to industrialize or create those gold image of operating system and applications? How can I package things once and then dynamically configure them dependent on who the user is or where they are? And lastly, from a security point of view, how do I start to look at removing admin privileges and implementing things like whitelisting so that my Windows PC is not under attack anywhere near what it anywhere near like what it is today? So with AppSense, we do that in a suite of products. Come and talk to us afterwards. We've got a stand, we've got demonstrations. If you're not familiar with our suite, we have a suite of products. You can buy each one of those products independently. They solve some of those pain points and some of those items that I've just mentioned to consider. If you're doing a profile migration, if you want to secure your Windows desktop build or remove admin rights, if you want to manage CPU and memory and reduce logon times, if you want to give users access to data from wherever they are, or you just want to understand what your environment's doing, AppSense have some solutions that can help. In the last 5 weeks, you may also have read that AppSense was acquired by a company called Landesk. Landesk have been around for about 35 years. They were born out of Intel. They do a number of things, including endpoint management. They have a service desk product, and they also have a patching product. So when we talk about vulnerabilities and patching, Landesk do all of the above. AppSense helps complete the Landesk vision in the following ways, and again, you're more than welcome to have these slides. But in terms of how AppSense and Landesk are now building on that message and those problems that I've been talking to you about, we have ways which we can now give increased visibility by using Landesk and AppSense technologies together. I can now start to link things like application control and privilege management into a service catalog or a self-service portal so that I can actually start to give users that concept of an IT store. I can give them self-service, and actually I can start to automate, for instance, a lot of the security controls and desktop configuration controls that we're doing with our technology. And lastly, when it comes to securing your environment, when it comes to securing Windows endpoints, there are 4 key things that are being recommended more often than not at the moment, and that is to patch the operating system, patch applications, implement whitelisting, and remove local admin privileges from your end user estates. That alone can help prevent somewhere in the region of 84–85% of the malware attacks that came out in the last 12 to 18 months. So combined with Landesk and AppSense, that's obviously what we can now offer as well, because we've always been able to do the pieces on the right. We can now do the patching on the left. And if you want to come and speak to us about that, then please feel free as well. So there we go. There's my PC. My PC runs AppSense technology day in, day out. If I drop it, I can log back on again. It will get repersonalized. I can migrate to the new release of Windows 10 when it comes out. My environment is consistently personalized. I've got whitelisting enabled. I run as a local user on my device. I've got access to all of my data, and it is optimized so that I log on and log off incredibly quickly, and that regardless of where I am, I've got contextual control over this device. Thank you very much for listening as well. Appreciate it.